Hi, welcome to the third video of our system design series, and in this video we are going to understand the most interesting topic, that is sharding and partitioning, and we will also learn how do you pick the right database when you are designing a distributed database systems. So I'm very excited for this topic. I hope you will learn a lot from this video, and so without wasting any time, let's start with the video and let's start what is sharding and partitioning. So the agenda will be, we'll deep dive into sharding partitioning, then we'll move to how database is scaled related to sharding and partitioning, then we'll understand what type of partitionings we have, then we'll understand the advantages and disadvantages, and then we'll understand the right database. How do we pick the right database? What are the strategies to follow? So now let's start with the very common definition. Sharding is methods of distributing data across multiple machines. That is sharding. Splitting data into mutually exclusive subsets. That is partitioning. These terms are used very interchangeably, but they are not the same, right? To have a very basic information or to retain what is the difference between sharding and partitioning, think it in this way. Partitioning is about data, sharding is about database. Okay, that will be like short summary to understand the difference between partitioning and sharding. Partitioning is about data, sharding is about databases. So let's now see how do we scale the database using partitioning and sharding. Let's say we have a simple EC2. That's the EC2. And we have here a port 3306 that will expose all the requests coming to my database. And here we have a MySQL database running. Let's also now define what database server is. See, it's a simple database process that is running inside an EC2. It can be MongoDB, it can be MySQL, relational or non-relational. DB server is just a database process running on a EC2 machine, that is a server. Okay. Now let's say we have this EC2 machine and our database server MySQL is running here, and 3306 is the port that is allowing the request to come to my EC2 machine, and that will be handled by my MySQL DB server. Now we know every DB has a limit. It has a limit that how many number of requests it can handle. So let's say we have an app and we have moved our app into production and our DB is running on that EC2 server. Okay, so it will look something like this. We have this API server, and here is our user, and here is our DB. Let's say initially our DB can handle 100 writes per second. That's the capacity of our database. This is the number of requests that our DB can now handle, right? 100 writes per second. That is a good, okay capacity, right? Now imagine you are getting more requests. You start to getting a lot of requests, like let's say 200. Let's say you get 200 writes per second. Now what will you do? You will scale up your database. You will give it more CPU. You will give it more RAM. You will give it more disk space, right? What will it look like? It will look something like this. API server. A user will be sending a request and it will be a little bit a bigger machine because we have given it bigger CPU, bigger RAM and bigger disk. So now you are happy. Okay, so you are very happy that Yeah, my database is now handling 200 writes per second. Let's say your product went really viral. It went bonkers, right? There are a lot of users, thousands of users, and now you want 1000 writes per second to be handled on your database. Now what will you do? You will say, it's okay. I have AWS, I have GCP. They all provide 1 or 2 click solutions to scale up my database. Okay, I'll do it. I'll make a even bigger database. Let's say API server, and I'll make even a bigger machine. So now machine this big, not in the sense of drawing this big, but in terms of CPU, I have given it more power. In terms of RAM, I have given it more power. In terms of disk, I have given it more power, hard disk, storage. So you will say, okay, I'll handle my traffic again. My product went viral and I can handle it in 2 clicks. That's good. That's good. But now, after a certain stage, you will not be able to scale it more than this, because vertical scaling has a limit. And what we were doing here, we were simply giving more CPU, more RAM, and that is the vertical scaling. And vertical scaling has a certain limit. It has a hardware limit, right? Let's see the example of mobile phone. If your mobile supports 64 GB of data, right, you cannot install 128 GB of SD card on it, okay, because physically it is implemented to support only 64 GB. Now let's say you have got to handle 1500 writes per second. Now you will say, okay, now that's the problem, because vertical scaling has a limit and I was able to handle 1000 writes per second, but now we have to handle 1500 writes per second. What's the solution? Solution is horizontal scaling. Okay, now let's try to understand horizontal scaling and how it handles. So let's say 1 DB server was handling 1000 requests and we cannot scale beyond that vertically. But what we can do is we can scale horizontally on a level and we can split the data, right? Now let me draw, and when you see the image, you will get what I'm trying to teach you, what I'm trying to convey to you. Okay, let's try to now horizontally scale the DB. Let's say we have this API server. Let's take some time to draw it properly. And we have a 1 DB. Now we add another database server. We will split the data. 50% of data will be handled by this first server. 50% of data will be there in this second DB. So this DB will handle 750 writes per second. This DB will handle 750 writes per second. Okay. That way we have divided our load as well, right? 50% of traffic going here, 50% of traffic going here. This DB can handle 750, this DB can handle 750 writes per second. Now, even if you are going to handle more than 1500 writes per second, let's say 2000, you can do that as well, because a single machine already had a capability of handling 1000 writes per second. We see it in the previous example, this one example, that it was Amazon, GCP or Azure, any cloud gives us this much capability. For an example, this much, not exactly this much, but let's say we have a capability of 1000 up until vertical scaling. So when we horizontally scale and added another DB, the first DB will be able to handle 1000. So you can handle still 250 writes per second extra, right? So that's the advantage of, that's the benefit of horizontal scaling. Okay, now the most important thing that will draw out of this conclusion and how we have scaled the databases is when you have partitioned, when you have divided the data. So this 50% of data is partitioned, right? But this server, this DB server that you have added, second DB server, first DB server. This will be called a shard. And that is the difference between sharding and partitioning. I told you in the beginning as well. Sharding is about databases. We have the one database here, one database here. These are shards. Partitioning is about data. When you're splitting a set of mutually exclusive data, that is partitioning. When we deploy it on different machines, that is sharding. Let's now try to dig deeper and understand partitioning in more detail. Let's say I have a 100 GB of data. Okay. Now I want to make it divide it into 5 partitions. Let's say 20 GB, 10 GB, 30 GB, again 10 GB, again 10 GB, 20, 30, 60, 70, again 30 GB. Okay. Now it's my choice that how do I want to transfer these partitions. What do I mean by transferring the partitions is that suppose we have this one shard here and one shard here and the other shard here. Now it is up to me whether I want to keep these two partitions in this shard, in this database server, and this partition alone in this shard, and these two partitions alone in this shard, 10 GB and 30 GB. So it's totally up to me and the design choices that how we want to partition our data, right? So these also depend on the use cases and the load as well, but that is what the thing is, that you can make 5 partitions and you can install your partitions on the different shard depending on your use cases. Suppose this shard one gets a lot of load, you can do that, you can put this 10 GB partition into the another shard. That is also a possibility. I am sure you are clear with the partition even more. Now let's see the types of partitions. So the first type of partition is horizontal partition. Okay, so there are two types of partition generally, horizontal partition and vertical partition. Now what is horizontal partition? Let's say we have a table, a relational database table or a document in non-relational database, and we will simply slice the table from the between or some endpoints, and we will keep certain rows into a separate shard, separate certain rows into a partition, and that partition is sent into the different shards. So dividing or cutting database like horizontally, that's your horizontal partitioning. Vertical partitioning is, suppose we have a lot of tables and we are picking the first 4 tables and putting it into the shard 1, the other tables into the shard 2, and respectively into the different number of shards. So slicing the data from the between is horizontal partitioning, keeping certain rows in one partition, keeping other rows in other partition, and dividing the tables, keeping certain tables in different partition and sending it to different shard, that is vertical partitioning. Depending on the use case, again which one to pick depend totally on load and the access pattern, that the pattern you have designed to access your databases. Okay, in general horizontal partitioning is more commonly used. It's a more common practice. Now we have understood the type of partitioning, we have understood sharding and partitioning in detail, we have understood how do we scale our database. Let's now try to understand what are the possible combinations that we can achieve through sharding and partitioning. So let's say we are neither sharding the data, neither partitioning the data. So how will it look like? Neither sharding nor we are partitioning. It will look something like this, simple, very simple, monolith kind of an example, right? Here we have a data. This is the partition and this is the shard. So example will be our monolith. Monolith is the perfect example for this. Now let me draw it with another pen, the partition part, so that you can understand much better. This is the partition. Okay. Now let's go to the another case. Suppose we are not sharding but partitioning. Now how will we draw it? Let's say that's our database or shard and we have two partitions inside it. Now let's try to understand this with example. What example will best suit this use case when we are not sharding but we are partitioning? Let's say you are installing a MySQL server and you are creating one DB for authentication and other DB for your profile. In that you are logically creating two partitioner on a single machine, on a single MySQL database. And you are using two different microservices, right? Let's not think it as microservices, but think that you are using two different DBs, two partition inside the same machine. So we have partitioned, but we have not used sharding. We are using the same system. We are using the same DB server. Now let's go to the third case. Third case is very interesting. We are sharding and we are partitioning as well. Now how will it look like? It will look something like this. That's shard 1, that's shard 2, and the partitions will be like this. That's partition 1, that's partition 2. Now what will be the example for this use case? See, we have created one DB for authentication and one DB for profile, logically two partitions in the previous example. Similarly, now suppose we get money and I want to break my architecture into microservices. So I'll take the DB partition of authentication and put it into a separate database, separate MySQL database server. I'll take that DB partition of profile and put it into the separate MySQL server. So both of them will have microservices and they will be handling separate requests, one for the authentication microservices, other one for the profile, and that is the best example for the both sharding and partitioning, because this shard will be handling the authentication microservices and this other shard will be handling the profile microservices. So I hope you are clear with all the scenarios. Now let's understand the advantage and disadvantages very quickly. What will be the advantages of sharding? Handle large reads and writes, as we saw when we learned the database scaling, like when we horizontally scaled up our database and created one more database server and called it a shard. That's an advantage. Increases overall storage capacity, higher availability. Even if one of the shard is down, you can be rest assured that either partial system is working, a part of our system is still up and available to the users. Now what are the disadvantages? It's seriously complex to set up operationally it's quite complex to set up certain number of shards. The other disadvantages is that cross-sharded queries are expensive. What do we mean by cross-sharded queries? Is that data is partitioned into two different shards and we want to make certain changes into the both of the shards simultaneously. So for that we have to set up certain DB distributed transactions, and it slows down your system. So it is taken in mind while designing that data is partitioned in a way that you do not have to make cross shard queries, okay, because it makes your system slow and it makes your system prone to failure. So that's all about the part sharding and partitioning part, and thanks. So let's now discuss about how do we pick the right database. As of now, we have discussed sharding and partitioning in data and how do we scale our database. But let's now understand how we are going to pick the right database. So first, the very important thing is that when you are picking a database, it is not a fight. There is no picking any sides. The only thing that you keep in mind is that every database has some peculiar set of properties that benefits your use case, right? So there is no such thing as favorite DB, but instead of that notion, you should think in a manner that a database was designed to solve a particular problem, a particular set of problems. Let's say if you needed data consistency, relational databases, they were designed to keep that in mind. If you want to have a very quick access, you want to keep your data in a memory, so you want to have a key based access. So Redis was designed for that purpose. So there is no favorite DB, it all depends on your use case, and you need to look that the problem you are solving, which database is providing you the best properties to solve that problem. Now, very common misconception out there is that non-relational DBs, they scale, but relational DBs don't. So that is actually not quite true. But let's say why non-relational DB scale? If this notion is correct, why do they scale? So they scale because they have no relations or constraints. By relations, it means that in a relational DB, you have a table, and suppose if you want to create a child but the parent does not exist, so relational DB will not let you do that because that's a constraint, right? And the second part why non-relational DB scale is that data is modeled in the form that it provides you sharding out of the box, right? Because when non-relational DBs they were designed to keep in mind that your data will be kept on different nodes. It will not be kept on single node. So data is modeled in the form to provide sharding out of the box. But now let's say if we relax these constraints on the relational database, shouldn't they scale too? So what are these constraints? Let's say first thing, if we do not use foreign key checks, second, if we do not do cross sharding, by cross sharding I mean that it is not possible in relational DBs that you keep child in one node and the parent of that child in another node. So that way you have to cross shard. So suppose if we relax this constraint on relational DB, we do not use cross shard query, do not use foreign key check, and third, if we do these two things, we can do manual sharding. So relational DBs will also scale. So that is a very misconception out there that non-relational DB scale and relational don't. Now let's see how does this help in designing our system and what should be some of the steps that we need to follow while we are designing any system. First is that do not directly jump to the database, right? Because you need to first identify the properties that the database provides you that suits your problem, that helps you solve your use case, right? So the first question that you should be asking yourself when you are designing a database or you are picking the right database for your system design, the first thing should be asked is understand what data you are storing. By what data means, are you storing structural data? Are you storing non-structural data? Or you are storing semi-structure? Second thing that you need to ask yourself, understand how much data. Like suppose if your data will never grow 2 GB, 3 GB, then there is no need to think about sharding, because you are very sure that your data will never exceed this 2 GB or 3 GB storage, right? So there is no point in thinking about non-relational DBs here. Third, that you should be keeping in mind how you will be accessing the data. How you will be querying the data, like how much complex queries and aggregation you will be firing on your database. And the last thing, any special features. If you have any special features such as expiration, Bloom filters, that's not the motive of this video. These are some features that database provides. We'll cover in the upcoming videos. So these should be your go-to steps while you are making the design decision for your database. So let me just sum up this in a very summarized manner. So if your data can fit on one node and the data correctness and data consistency is of the highest priority, go for relational database. Without a doubt, relational database is the best suited for data correctness and data consistency. If you need complex queries and you are going to fire a lot of complex queries and aggregations on your database, also go for relational database, because it's a tested product. It's out there for so many years and you should go for relational DB. But now suppose if your data can fit on single node, but your access is key value based, right? You need a very fast access. So what should you do? You should go for Redis. Now imagine if you need advanced data structures, right? Advanced data structures and algorithm, then you go for Redis as well, because that's what Redis was built in. I already told you in the beginning that every DB is special. Every DB was created to solve a particular set of problems, right? So that was the thought when each DB were created. When Redis was created, it was kept to keep in mind in cache memory, right? And advanced data structures and algorithms. Now let's say if your data cannot fit on one node, then what you do? You think you might use non-relational database because you will be needing sharding out of the box. But let's say you have a team that has an expertise in SQL. So you can do what is that you should not move to the new database and learn the new database. You can do manual sharding. Since you have an expertise in SQL, your team have expertise in SQL, you should go for relational DB in this scenario as well. Now again, if your data cannot fit on one node and you need to have a key value based access, use DynamoDB, use MongoDB. The last is that if you need very complex graph based algorithm, Neo4j is the way to go. So now I am sure that you have understood sharding and partitioning and how database is scaled, and you also know how do you pick the right database when you are making any design decision. So thanks for watching.